We are backstage right now with AbilityMKE Now. We'll be going live on River West Radio in about 15 seconds, so stand by. Welcome to AbilityMKE Now on River West Radio. My name is Sue Roskoff, and we're so happy to be here. AbilityMKE Now is a show all about integration, bringing people with disabilities and people that don't have a disability together, enjoying life here in the Milwaukee area. We all have different abilities, and here at AbilityMKE Now, we dive into this topic of diverse abilities. The concept of disability hits a wide range of possibilities. We could be talking about physical or mental disabilities, the deaf and hard of hearing community, blindness, chronic pain, mental health diagnosis, goals of substance use reduction, and the list goes on. We all have our own experience with disability, whether it's our own or with people we know or people we encounter in our daily lives. Here at AbilityMKE Now, we break down the barriers and celebrate the ability in all of us. I am excited tonight to have some wonderful guests joining us. And to start out with the introductions, I'm going to go ahead and bring Emily Gomer in here to join us and introduce our first guest.
Yeah, welcome everybody, and yes, happy Thanksgiving, or the day before Thanksgiving, I should say. But our first guest, we met through the Happy Neighborhood Project, through the MOCAN event, Missouri and Kansas, but he's also a financial advisor through Edward Jones. So I'm going to bring in Victor. Victor, welcome to the show.
Hi there, Emily. Thank you for having me.
Will you say who you are, a little bit about who you are, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, as Emily, you got my name right, which is a sure sign that we've had a chance to interact a few times. My name is Victor Hatuk. I always tell people the easiest way to remember how to pronounce my last name is to think of it like you're sneezing, Hatuk. And it's a very silly, like, mnemonic device that seems to like stick in people's minds. But as Emily, as you teed off, I am a financial advisor with Edward Jones. I'm also a certified financial planner, and I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri. So I've had a chance to work with Edward Jones for since 2006. So that's what, like, coming upon 18 years now. So I've been with the firm for a while now, and I was very happy to be able to meet Emily and Kurt through the Happy Neighborhood Project. So we've just kept that relationship going over for the last year or so.
Excellent. And can you tell us a little bit more about specifically what your role is with Edward Jones?
Yeah. So I tell people that what I focus on is I act as both an educator and as a coach for people's financial situations. So I help families not have to worry about their financial picture. And in terms of being able to do so, as I mentioned, a lot of the educating and the coaching is really tantamount to making sure that people don't worry, right? It's one thing to be able to say, all right, I'll take care of it. But for regardless of people's abilities, I always want to make sure that any of the families that I work with, they know specifically how I'm going about trying to, make sure that they're staying on track. So at Edward Jones, we have this thing. It's called the 5-step wheel, where if you just imagine a big circle and you just divide it into 5 different pieces, 5 different slices, we say that the process when it comes to financial planning starts at step 1, which is really assessing where are you today. And so whenever I work with families and we're trying to answer that question of where are you today, actually, I tell them it's not just about what you've saved up and where your current financial picture is. I encourage them to really think about whose advice have you taken in the past? What have been the major decisions that have really impacted your views of money and budgeting and investing and all of that? What are the negative and positive experiences that you've had with money? Because a lot of those things really shape of where you are today, your feelings about risk and how much you're willing to invest, things like that. So that's step 1. Step 2, when we talk about where would you like to be? That's usually where the goals come into play. So I always encourage people, when you think about where you'd like to be, dream big. There's nothing wrong with dreaming big, right? But that's where we can have a lot of conversations about shoot for the moon. You know, what are all the big goals, the small goals, things in the future, things that are happening maybe by the end of the year. We want to make sure that we get them all on paper. So again, holistically, we can see the big picture. Step three of the wheel is all about, can I get there? This is really more where people, turn to me for the analysis part of it to say, all right, Victor, you know where I'm at, you know where my goals are. Can I get there? Can I do the nerd work, so to speak, to make sure that the numbers make sense? Because step four is more about the recommendations. How do I get there? What do I need to do to be able to get there? Should I change anything? Should I start anything? What do I need to do? And then step five is all about, how can I stay on track? How do I make sure that as life, potentially throws curveballs at me, that my plan is still intact for both me and my family? And then it all loops back to step one of, where am I today? So it's a wheel for a reason, because it's never ending. Essentially, it's always an ongoing process. So yeah, to answer your question there, Sue, that's what I like to focus on here at Edward Jones.
I love that because and you're right. I mean, you can take them that snapshot of where are you now and use that to move forward with the ideas where you want to be and what your hopes are. But then life changes. You get married, you have kids, you have cars, you have all the things that happen in life. Things change along the way. So yeah, you do need to remember to circle back around and take a look at it again and again, and then look at it again. That it's
Right.
good to have a relationship with somebody who you can trust, that you can have those conversations with, and to be able to take an honest look at where you are, and figure out, how do I get to where I'm going? Because
Exactly.
here, I have a question
Sure.
that, no, when I think back to when I was in school, I know we had a class somewhere along the way where we talked about, how to write a check, and a little bit with government, a little,
Right. Right.
but as far as really, how does money work? How does all this
Yeah.
stuff, where do people learn that? Because
Yeah.
I don't think I really got all that when it would have been most valuable. I understood pieces, but
Yeah.
it was, I think long after I was married that really was like, oh, okay, that would have been good to know before. Do you encounter that a lot?
It is a very common thing. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Your observations, I would say, are very on point. And it is a bit tragic that financial literacy is tough to come by, because it is something that honestly a lot of people want to know, right? It's something that they want to be able to feel empowered by. And in terms of just kind of the way that classes are set up these days, we really don't have financial literacy baked into like the K through 12 education program. I've heard of some schools that have started like to dabble with it, but it seems like a lot of those, if someone gets exposure to it at an early age, is really through parents, right, or guardians, and really kind of like their community. Now, we've probably seen a trend, especially over the last couple of years, where there's a lot of information that will get shared about finances on social media as well too. And essentially, that's where a lot of young people have gravitated towards, because there's a vacuum there, right? The good news is that they're at least pursuing that. The bad news is that sometimes some of the data that's out there, or some of the avenues as to how they gather that data, might not be appropriate for them, right? It might not be something that they fully understand the scope of, and they end up making bad decisions when it comes to, investing early on in potential things that they just don't understand. How much risk am I being exposed to right now?
Yeah, because understanding again, it comes back to that trust piece. Are you getting information from somebody you know, or some random person who says, I got all this information? Where check your sources, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Where are you actually getting your information from? And is it, like you said, is it appropriate for you? Or are you getting your information from these celebrities that are on TikTok or whatever? And it might be appropriate for them, but we're not probably in the same
Yeah.
financial league as where they are,
Yeah, that is a very good point, and very much drives that as what I was saying. I would definitely say that I have seen some apps that have come out that are specifically trying to target younger people. And I'm not just talking about teenagers, even younger than that. So, children that are beneath 10 years old, for example, how can they start to understand how money works? And how can they even just, be able to do so by having conversations with not just their parents about it, but also using the app that has built-in videos to educate them in a way that's more in alignment with what they would find to be entertaining, right? So kind of like the more modern style of how YouTubers, approach their videos and their content. They kind of have to keep it snappy. They have to kind of do some of these jump cuts just to keep the attention there. Yeah, so I do feel that there's optimism in terms of financial literacy being able to move forward, because there's definitely been a big vacuum of it, but there have been some pockets of different companies and different organizations that are trying to fill those pockets. And I think in the long run, those should be, celebrate those wins, so to speak.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So, what is the number one kind of or top type challenge that you encounter when you are working with people?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is something that actually keeps me up quite often. It's because I feel like the big challenge for a lot of folks is, I feel, when I described that 5-step wheel earlier, that fifth step of how do I stay on track, I do feel like that's a very important component. And to elaborate a little further on that, the challenge is, one, are they having conversations with their families, with their loved ones, to make sure that they're able to stay on track? And two, are they able to think about those potential situations or scenarios where life has thrown them a curveball that potentially could bring them off track? So, I like to phrase it as planning for the unexpected, because one of the big things is that, yeah, we can always plan for what we can expect, but we also have to plan for those unexpected things as well, too. And that's usually the component that a lot of people really don't have taken into a lot of consideration. So as I said, my first recommendation was, I say, have conversations with the family, have conversations with your loved ones, those who are closest with you, because it gives a chance to be able to get, that out in the open. It's one of those things where whenever parents are talking about aging and, potentially, as they get older, the conversation of death comes up. And that's never a fun conversation. It's a very sobering conversation. But I do feel like it's a conversation that should be had with not just the spouses, and their loved ones, but also like their children as well too. So, what would happen if something were to happen to mom or dad, for example? Do the kids know where they'd be able to turn to, what their steps would be? So that way, if something tragic were to happen, there's at least you know, some sort of plan in place, or at least there was a discussion of a plan, so people just don't feel so like overwhelmed and drowning. And that is just a very horrible situation for any family to be in. And it's not just death that could be like a big life changer. We could have serious medical illnesses as well too. Or what if mom and dad end up, having cognitive issues, dementia? Those are just very common things that we can think of. Hey, I know someone that was impacted by this. Anyone could probably come up with a good laundry list of things that had happened to friends, loved ones, other folks that I've known, that, hey, I should make sure that I have conversations with my loved ones, and we can put at least some sort of plan in place for that.
Excellent. Well, and I gotta ask, so I think I already maybe know the answer, but what is your favorite piece of what you do?
Yeah, that's I'm giggling because a lot of times when people do ask me that, I am a big travel nerd. I absolutely love travel, and I love it so much that even when I'm not traveling, when other people are traveling, I get very giddy about that. So, one of my favorite things to do is helping people to plan any sort of travel that they're doing, as big or as small as it is. So I live here in St. Louis, and a common destination that people will go to in St. Louis is Branson, Missouri, right, which is just a few hours away from St. Louis. And yeah, everyone that lives in Missouri has been to Branson, so it's not like there's no, there's nothing special about Branson. But even as folks tell me, hey, we want to be able to spend like a week in Branson, we've rented this big home for like all of our family members, and it's going to be a big family reunion. I can't help but get excited about that because it's getting them outside of just their normal life. So I feel like that variety of being able to be removed from just like your normal routine, travel is able to do that. And I get super excited about that. And I hope a lot of folks just, I actually, in my office, I keep a library of different travel books and travel guides. So if someone tells me I'm going to go to this destination, I will give them that copy of, whether it's Frommer's or Lonely Planet or Rick Steves' trip to Italy, Costa Rica, the Mediterranean cruise, things like that. And I always give folks just ideas of, hey, have you considered this, doing this, incorporating this into your itinerary? And I especially love it when they come back and they're able to tell me, hey, we did this, it was fantastic, we did this, and it allows me to just build my travel Rolodex, so to speak, to be able to give ideas for other trips.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Actually, and that was not the answer I was expecting. So that's even better. Oh, and actually, you kind of described a little bit of, because even our family, we every other year we actually all get together because everybody lives all across the country. We rent a house that's big enough for everybody somewhere. Whoever's turn it is to plan, it usually ends up being near-ish where they are. But
Mhm.
rent a big house and make a week of it. That's literally what we do, and it's fabulous.
A
It's
lot
so
of
much
fun.
fun.
A lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, I've especially this year as a lot more people are traveling now that, we're kind of past a lot of the major COVID restrictions that we had, 3 years ago. Yeah, a lot of folks have got to the point where they've told me, they said, hey, Victor, in the last 3 months or so, I've had people who have gone to Costa Rica. I've had two people who have gone on a Mediterranean cruise. I have a client who's going to France. And then one is planning to do like a New York trip, I think in a couple weeks here. So again, just destinations that I've been fortunate enough to at least also be able to go to. So if they've gone to a place that I've been to, I just want to make sure that, hey, here's the experience I have. I hope you have that, and then something even better, and maybe some tips and tricks to just really enhance that. Because again, it's a very memorable moment that matters in life is what I like to say. Something that if they can, remember that for the rest of their life, then I feel like, hey, I was able to add some value to our relationship.
Oh, I love that. That's fantastic. It's all about relationships and being able to do something like that to be an inspiration piece of what they end up doing, and really to have it coming then from somebody that they trust, because with what you do, they know that they can count on you. With the role that you serve in, that really is a big thing. So that's fantastic. And actually, I'm just realizing we're rolling along here, and I want to make sure we have a chance to bring in our second guest here as well. So, Emily, would you please do the honor of introducing our guest number two?
Okay, guest number two is named Dio, all the way from Nigeria, Africa. He's a student, and is has graduated, but is looking to go to college and for another degree. So I'm gonna bring Dio in, see, have him introduce himself a little more.
Yeah, Dio, come on in, and if you could tell us a little bit more about you and what your goals are, that would be fantastic.
All right, thanks for having me, Sue, and what a nice introduction. And I enjoy your conversation, Victor, and thanks for sharing that with us. So basically, my name is Dio, and as Emily said, I recently graduated from my first degree, university at in Nigeria, and I'm willing to go for my MSc in the UK. Aside schooling, I help businesses build their softwares. I help them manage their social media accounts, and of course, bless them with graphic designs so that it's all of these things can help them increase their sales. So that's what I do basically. So
Well, and I know you're interested in getting your master's degree then. So, and what is the goal then with your master's? What is that degree going to be in exactly?
yeah, it's just to it enables me to effectively manage my my projects because I've always wanted to be a product that millions of people would use, and you know from there it could actually create job opportunities for a whole lot of people. All right, because where I come from, where the unemployment rate keeps increasing, so the goal is just to help solve the problem of unemployment by creating, software products, digital products that could actually employ a whole lot of people and solve so many, societal problems. So that's my goal.
Excellent. Yeah, and I know we've had a chance to speak recently, and from what I've gathered so far, you've got a big heart and big goals, and I love where you're going, and I'm looking forward to hearing how things all come together, because you do have a great background with the computer side, with the social media, with all those pieces, and to be able to earn that the project management degree to enhance what you're already doing. I love what I'm hearing and where you're all going.
Thank you so much, Sue. God bless you. Thank you so much. That means a
Thank
lot to
you.
me. Yeah.
Well, and I'm actually curious. I've got a question for Victor kind of related to that then. So I know going to college and the expense involved in furthering our education, what kind of advice do you tend to have for people with how to handle that? Because there's a lot with that, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're going to school full time, it's hard to earn much income and it's all expensive. And what do you tell a client when they're looking to take on this type of experience?
Yeah, there's I think with anything related to money, one of the best things that anyone could do is to start early. I think that's just like, step number one. So for parents or grandparents, whenever there's a newborn child in the family, be able to set up some sort of potential education account for them. Here in the United States, we have what's called the 529 plan. That a lot of folks are able to use for that. There's some other education plans that are able to be invested and help out for tax purposes, but giving that money a good runway of time to be able to take off, that's a huge part of it. When it comes to other sources of financial educating or financial educational funding, I should say, you can also look at grants. Those are one of those things that are available out there, like certain Pell grants are one of those things that are available. I know student loans they are an albatross around the neck for a lot of people. So it's one of those things where, those are one of the solutions if someone feels like, hey, they may have exhausted some of the other ones that are out there. So if they do look at potential loans, I always tell them, are you looking at something that's a private loan, or is it one of those public loans that, potentially could be forgiven for one reason or another? So for example, for like teachers, if they stay in certain, if they start teaching in certain areas of cities and such, those loans could be forgiven. Same thing with like doctors as well too, and nurses. So being able to kind of look at something that could potentially be forgiven in the future, hey, that's, there's nothing wrong with that. Private loans tend to be a bit more stringent in terms of being able to have such benevolence. So so between looking at loans, saving early, yeah, considering work part-time, I know for a lot of folks, the whole gig economy is one of those things that has developed a lot in recent years. So being able to kind of almost like either create your own gig or being able to do something on the side to try to be able to fund some of that education, those are a couple just different solutions. I don't feel like when it comes to education planning and funding, there's really no silver bullet these days, unfortunately, unless you just happen to have very generous parents or grandparents. There's no silver bullet, but it's one of those things where if you're able to kind of take a lot of these things into consideration, they can help out.
Excellent. Yeah, I know I actually work at a university too. So I know I even see with students too, that a lot of them, I have several that are part of the work study program. So they're able to work and earn money that way. But the number of them that have that and another job or even a third job, it's amazing to me how how dedicated they are and how taxed they are, mentally and time wise and everything, trying to keep up with all of it, so there's a lot there. And if they can get the advice early on, like you're saying, to be able to start planning early. And actually it makes me even think, just thinking back to what we are here, AbilityMKE Now. I know we have in mind often those that have disabilities, and they've got a whole nother level of potential expense depending on what that disability may be. Is there anything that you've encountered or that you have thoughts on in that realm?
Yeah, it is one of those that, the folks that have varying abilities, some of them that cause them, whether it's physical or learning wise, it is a tougher situation to be able to deal with, right? That's where a lot of those times I encourage people to, if they want to sit down with me, we talk about just what are their resources, try to get them educated on what are all the available resources that are, provided at the federal level, at the state level, and potentially even a local level. So, if it's higher education, is there anything like a scholarship that might be available that's out there? But at kind of the more like state and local level, there are certain programs that are available. So there are things like Medicaid, Social Security Disability. You have certain accounts. Every state has what are called ABLE accounts, and ABLE accounts. I should say not all states have them. I know. I believe I'm pretty sure Wisconsin does not have them. But if someone is a Wisconsin resident, I know some states allow non-residents of that state to be able to join their ABLE program. And essentially, ABLE accounts are accounts that are savings accounts that people with various disabilities can still be able to save money and put money towards, and not have it impact, say, their eligibility for some of those other benefits that are out there, such as Medicaid, such as Social Security Disability. It gives them a chance to be able to say, hey, my financial future is also important. I don't want to just be able to live by the skin of my teeth, every single month, every single year. I want to be able to start saving and planning as well too. And the ABLE accounts are an avenue for them to be able to do so. Again, it's all about resources and educating. It's funny because as a financial planner, I went to school for that as well too. But it's one of those things that most of my time is spent learning more about people's needs, wants, and wishes, and being a sort of more coach for them. So, it's not just me brain dumping all of my financial planning knowledge. It's really just being able to see, yeah, what's appropriate, where's their education level. Even if we need to start, from square one, let's build it up from square one so they feel comfortable. Hopefully, again, they have a plan that they can buy into.
That's fantastic. I love your approach because it sounds to me like the most basic practical way to go about it. And if people don't have somebody they can talk to be able to reach out and find someone, find somebody like you to have those conversations, because they can be difficult conversations, because sometimes it's hard to look in the mirror and really say, okay, this is where I am today, and I got to figure out how I want to get to all these big goals I have. Sometimes that's the hard part, right?
Right. That is true.
But starting that conversation, it is hugely important. So, and I do want to just take the moment real quick. I know Thanksgiving is tomorrow, so I want to make a big point in where, for me, from the bottom of my heart, that I am so thankful for having a way to share wonderful people like you, and to have the ability here to share out to the world all the things that are that we find important, and that we can talk ability with AbilityMKE Now. And for all of that, as I always say,